Welcome to the Afterspin, opinions from thought leaders in our state. Cash Michaels and Becki Gray, the City of Raleigh has joined many other communities in establishing a curfew that halts the sale of alcohol at 11 p.m. in a desire to try to keep people from congregating in large groups. Most of those who are doing it are young people in the 21 to 40-year-old age range. Do you think this curfew is going to work? And if so, are there any other curfews that are needed? Becki?
Well, my big question with this is, has there been a problem? What is the problem that we're trying to solve? Are we seeing outbreaks caused by young people congregating after 11 o'clock at night? I'm not sure that that's really the problem, or if it is, and if we do have, of course, bars aren't open. This is only for restaurants. If we're having a problem with this, with certain establishments, shouldn't we issue warnings or penalties to those particular businesses without having a widespread prohibition on this? We have our restaurants across North Carolina, and particularly in the more urban areas, are barely holding on. They are struggling. What we're hearing from some of the restaurant owners is another hit to their business like this is going to be the death knell for many of them. And I'm just not sure that this curfew is going to address the problem that they're trying to solve.
Cash, Glenwood South is one of the areas in Raleigh in which there are a large number of young people that are congregating, and there are others in cities and communities across the state. What's your take on this curfew?
I think it's exactly right, Tom, for the simple reason that when people are inebriated, when they're drunk, they don't socially distance very well. They don't think very well. They don't even act very well. They don't want to think, and particularly in the midst of a pandemic, they just want to let things fly. And so you have to have some way of governing that, and you have to empower the restaurant that's serving the alcohol to pretty much say, hey, it's 10 or 11 o'clock, that's it. The law says I can't do it. I mean, we've done it before. We've passed curfews, or whatever you want to call it, prohibitions on drinking past certain hours before to give liability, protect restaurants and bars from liability previously. Well, this is a health crisis. We are under a health emergency, and we need to do everything we can to make sure that people are given every opportunity to conduct themselves in a safe manner.
I think the more realistic question is, can you enforce it, Becki?
Well, that's a big question. I mean, we have a lot of these, mandates. The mask mandate is one that, it is unenforceable across. So what you've done is you have empowered businesses. You have left those decisions up to individual businesses and individuals. And I think that's where this rests, rather than these across-the-board mandates with things. I think it's, I'm not sure that it is a correct assumption that anyone who is enjoying an alcoholic beverage after 11 o'clock at night is drunk and unable to make good decisions. I just think we need to have more confidence in people and let them make their own decisions.
We can say, though, knowing what we do know, that they're not making good decisions in congregating in large crowds without masks in open settings, right?
Well, I mean, we've seen the protest. In the protesters and the marches.
We keep
we have
bringing
those
up the
kind of
protest
things.
on everything. This is just not a good decision, is it, Cash?
Well, drinking at 11 o'clock at night is not a good decision. So I really don't understand what the situation. Look, we are in a health emergency, and whatever it takes to get that through young people's heads in particular, because they are the most resistant to rules. They are most resistant to mandates. They're also most resistant to common sense. But you ask the folks in Texas, you ask the folks in Florida, you ask the folks even in California, which opened too early. That's the reason why they're the epicenter of a lot of things happening right now. When you allow people too much freedom, and there is such a thing as too much freedom in the midst of a health emergency, you have the problems that you have right now, a pandemic that is nowhere near over.
All right, Becki, I'm looking at your face. You get last word. You didn't agree with that, did you?
No, well, first of all, there can never be a thing as too much freedom, in my view. And I think that I think that we have to trust people, and we have to let people make decisions. And are we going to start telling people they can't go to the beach. We mentioned earlier in this week's show about so many people getting out and about around the state, enjoying the beauty of North Carolina. I've been on several walking trails in the western part of the state. They're crowded. There's a lot of people around. You just have to trust people to make the right decisions. And I think that, as we get through this and as we get through this together, I think the more that you can rely on people to make their own decisions rather than, government mandate after government mandate after government mandate, often, and I think that this closing at 11 o'clock is one that is not based on really good evidence that this is what is needed.
You talk about freedom, though. They also have to have some responsibility to go along with that freedom.
That goes with it, absolutely.
Well, and so meeting in large crowds, that doesn't jive with what we know to be the best science now.
Well, but there's Tom, I just would argue there's other ways to handle that.
Okay, what are they?
Well, you could enforce those regulations for social distancing, wearing masks, and keeping people safe. And when businesses don't do that or people don't do that, then there is some sort of penalty involved with it. But I think
I don't want to be the cop that goes around writing tickets for people that are not social distancing. Cash, last word.
Yeah, Tom, all due respect to Becki, who I love, but hey, reopening too early was exactly following that line of thinking. People can manage this, so therefore let's reopen, let's get our economies together, and let's just move like if nothing's happened. You can't do that. There is such a thing as too much freedom when you have an emergency.
Well, speaking of freedom, I'm free to thank you for watching the After Spin. We'll have more videos all during the week on ncspin.com.